Rain hammered against the narrow windows of the Beijing Municipal Bureau as the clock struck 3:14 a.m. The kind of rain that felt alive, restless, relentless. Like it was trying to warn the city of something it couldn't quite say. The storm wasn't the only thing waking the city at that hour. A convoy of unmarked police vehicles screeched into the underground garage, tires carving sharp echoes into the concrete walls. Before anyone watching could blink, officers rushed out in tight formation, surrounding the solitary figure being escorted into the building. It was him. Tang Yichen, the manager who had been silent since the night Menglong died. Drenched from the rain, face pale under the harsh fluorescent lighting. He didn't resist. He didn't raise his head. Didn't look at the cameras. Didn't try to defend himself. He simply walked, almost mechanically, like a man whose strength had long since been drained away. But even from a distance, something about him felt wrong, eyes sunken, shoulders shaking ever so slightly, as though he knew that stepping into the interrogation chamber meant stepping into truth he could never escape. News broke within minutes. Manager Tang Yichen detained for questioning. New breakthrough in Menglong case. Unexpected turn shocks investigators. Social feeds erupted into chaos. Hashtags multiplying faster than they could be moderated. Rumors bloomed like mold in dark corners of the internet. He confessed. He saw something. He wasn't alone. But the truth, whatever truth he carried, remained locked behind the cold metal doors of the bureau. To understand why his arrest shook the entire country, one had to return to the night Menglong fell. Official reports had labeled it a tragic accident, a late evening, too much alcohol, a misstep on a high balcony. But the city had never believed it. There were too many gaps. Too many shadows between the lines. The apartment CCTV malfunctioned at the exact moment of the fall. Witnesses reported hearing footsteps in the hallway long after you had supposedly returned home alone. His phone, the one he carried everywhere, vanished and was never logged as evidence. And there were whispers, faint but persistent, about an argument earlier that evening. A voice raised. Something thrown. A door slammed. The case didn't add up. It never had. At the center of every inconsistency stood one man, Menglong's personal manager, Tang Yichen. He was the last person confirmed to have seen the actor alive. Yet for months he avoided interviews, turned down requests for clarification, and maintained an impenetrable silence. His behavior was neither angry nor defensive. It was something else entirely, like a man running from something he didn't dare name. As investigators reopened the case in secret, they began to hear stories from those who had worked closely with Tang. Strange stories. Stories that shouldn't have existed in the world of entertainment management. One assistant said Tang often disappeared for hours during overnight shifts, emerging with trembling hands and bloodshot eyes. He was handling things. A stylist recalled Tang warning you to stay careful in the last week of his life. A makeup artist mentioned overhearing Tang arguing with someone over the phone. Voice low but frantic, "You promised me he wouldn't be involved." Then came the audio file, leaked anonymously to a minor forum where conspiracy theorists and true crime fanatics gathered. The audio was only 27 seconds long. The first part was almost silent, just a hum of an elevator and faint footsteps. Then came the breathing, uneven and sharp, like someone running. A door slammed. A voice, Yu's voice, distorted but recognizable, whispered something unintelligible. And then, right before the clip ended, there was another sound, a heavy thud, followed by footsteps that didn't belong to Menglong. Those who listened said the footsteps haunted them. Next came the CCTV fragment, a grainy clip from a corridor one floor below Yu's apartment. Tall figure stood at the end of the hallway, unmoving, face hidden beneath the hood of a dark coat. For 15 minutes, he remained there, rigid as a statue, before abruptly turning and walking away. The timestamp matched the approximate time of Menglong's fall. Investigators cross-checked the footage with other cameras and found something unnerving. The hooded figure seemed to avoid every camera on the building except the malfunctioning one, as if he knew exactly where each lens was pointing. Rumors exploded. Who was the figure? Why wasn't he identified? Where was Tang at that moment? The answer became clearer when investigators reviewed the building's underground garage logs from that night. Tang Yichen's access card registered 3 suspicious entries, 2 more than recorded in his initial statement. And the last swipe was timed exactly 19 minutes after Yu was pronounced dead. It was enough to bring him in. But the real reason the police dragged him into the station that stormy night was neither the audio file nor the CCTV clip. It was the email. 3 days before his death, Menglong had received a short, encrypted message from an unknown address. After months of failed attempts, cyberforensics cracked the encryption. The message contained only 3 words. He knows everything. And the sender's device was traced back to Tang Yichen. Investigators confronted him with the finding earlier that evening. Tang denied it at first, then hesitated, then trembled. Then he said something that made the lead detective's blood run cold. "I wasn't warning him. I was warning them. Them. Not him. Not the police. Not the public." Who were they? Tang refused to elaborate until the moment he was arrested. During the ride to the bureau, he didn't speak a single word. But just before they escorted him inside, when one officer asked quietly, "Why did you run?" lifted his head with a look half crazed, half defeated. "It wasn't just me," he whispered. "We're in the building too." That was the moment investigators realized the case was far more sinister than they had imagined. If Tang wasn't working alone, then what, or who, was hiding in the shadows of Menglong's final night? The question lingered like a poisonous fog as he was led into the interrogation chamber. No one could predict what he was about to reveal. Everyone knew one thing. Whatever he was running from was still out there. And if Tang Yichen was finally ready to speak, the truth waiting behind his silence would be darker, and far more horrifying, than anyone was prepared to hear. The interrogation room was colder than the hallway. Colder even than the downpour rattling against the windows outside. A single lamp hung over the metal table, casting a ring of pale, sickly light onto Tang Yichen's trembling hands. Hat hunched forward, wet hair clinging to his forehead, shallowly as if even oxygen felt dangerous. Across from him, Detective Lin kept his gaze steady, patient, firm, like a man who had stared down darkness before but knew this time was different. For several minutes, nothing happened. Silence stretched thin, taut as a wire ready to snap. Finally, did his eyes, unfocused and glossy, and whispered, "You don't understand what you've pulled me back into." Detective Lin leaned forward. "Then help us understand." Tang's jaw tightened as though a battle raged behind his expression. His hands flexed uselessly in his lap. Then, in a voice so faint the microphone barely captured it, he said, "They were watching him long before that night." Temperature in the room seemed to drop. Tang explained that the entertainment world, from the outside glittering and glamorous, masked a web of shadowy investors, power brokers, and nameless intermediaries who operated entirely off the public radar. According to him, these people didn't merely manage celebrities, they controlled them. They dictated careers, sabotaged rivals, manipulated scandals, and removed obstacles with clinical precision. Menglong, Tang said, had unknowingly crossed paths with him. What did he discover? Detective Lin asked. Swallowed hard. Money laundering. Shell companies. Illegal transactions under the guise of sponsorship deals. He found inconsistencies in the financial reports. And he mentioned it to the wrong person. The wrong person. Those words carried a weight heavier than accusation. They were a death sentence disguised as a slip of the tongue. Tang described how days before his fall, increasingly paranoid, he said someone was tailing him, on shoots, outside restaurants, even under his apartment complex. Tang didn't believe him at first, chalking it up to exhaustion. But then you showed him something, a video clip he had accidentally recorded while testing a new phone. In it, a figure appeared at the edge of the frame, a man in a black coat standing perfectly still behind a pillar, watching. He kept appearing, Tang said. Different places. Same coat. Same posture. Tang asked you why he didn't report it. You said he had. But the officer he spoke to brushed it off, telling him celebrities often imagined things because of stress. 3 days later, you received the encrypted email. He knows everything. Leaned back, covering his face as his voice cracked. That was my warning to them, not to him. Asked me to send it, to confirm he was aware of the files he found. Know what they planned to do next. Detective Lin tightened his grip on his pen. Who are they? Tang's eyes widened with something close to terror. Think I don't want to tell you? You think I'm protecting them? They're everywhere. They have people inside agencies, inside media, at law enforcement. They're the reason the CCTV failed. They're the reason his phone disappeared. They're the reason the first autopsy report was rewritten. He pointed at the ceiling. And they're the reason I'm still alive, because I did what they asked. Lin's voice was steady. What did they ask you to do? Tang shut his eyes, inhaling sharply, as if drowning in memories. When he opened them again, in him seemed fractured. I was supposed to keep him calm. Keep him compliant. Make sure he stayed home that night. They said they only wanted to talk to him. I needed to correct a misunderstanding. His fingers dug into the edge of the table, knuckles white. But when I got to the apartment, he was already running. He told me he'd seen them inside the building. One of them had knocked on his door. I tried to get him out. God, I tried, but the elevator wasn't working. The stairwell lights were flickering. He kept saying someone was following him. Was coming down the hall. Tang's voice dropped to tremble. I saw them. 2 men in masks. One at the far end of the corridor. One near the stairwell. Didn't run. They didn't speak. They just walked toward us. Slow. Deliberate. Lin's breath hitched. What happened next? Tang broke. I ran. It came out as a ragged confession. Words torn from a place he had tried to bury for too long. He didn't try to justify it. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He admitted the truth, that in the moment fear swallowed him whole. He fled and left you Menglong alone in that hallway with strangers whose faces he never saw. When I reached the lobby, whispered, I heard a scream. Cut off, like someone covered his mouth. Then loud footsteps. Then nothing. Detective Lin exchanged a glance with a silent officer beside him. You're telling us he didn't fall? Tang looked up, tears streaking down his face, voice raw. He didn't fall. He was thrown. The words echoed in the small room like a broken curse. Lin asked the next question quietly, almost gently. Why come forward now? Tang didn't answer immediately. He shifted to the corner of the room. To a shadow that wasn't moving but somehow felt aware. Because they're cleaning up, he said. Loose ends. Anyone who knew anything. They've already taken out 2 people from the old team. Both accidents. Both unexplained. He leaned forward, gripping Lin's wrist with icy fingers. Found something they didn't. Lin stiffened. What did you find? Lips shook as he whispered. Use backup drive. The one he hid from everyone. The room went still. Tang continued, he recorded more than he told me. Meetings. Conversations. Faces. Names. He stored everything on that drive. I didn't know where it was until 2 weeks ago. And when I finally watched what was on it, I understood why they wanted him gone. Detective Lin's voice tightened. Where is it? Tang slowly reached into his jacket pocket and placed a small black USB on the table. The officers leaned closer. No markings. Just a weightless piece of plastic that suddenly felt heavier than the world. That, Tang said, is why they're hunting me. As Lin signaled an officer to retrieve the drive. Lights flickered overhead. Once. Twice. And then. For a fraction of a second. The entire room went dark. Tang froze. Lin tensed. When the lights snapped back on, Tang's face was drained of color. They're here, he whispered. Before the detective could reply. Alarms went off in the hallway. Officers ran past the door. Radios crackled with urgent voices. An emergency lockdown had been triggered. Not by the police. Someone else. Tang's voice came out in a breathless tremor. You don't understand. This isn't just a murder case. It's a message. Detective Lin steadied himself. What kind of message? Tang looked him straight in the eyes, expression hollow. Defeated, terrified. That no one, even the famous, even the protected, is safe when they know too much? The alarms grew louder. The hallway lights dimmed again. And as shadows flickered against the frosted glass of the interrogation room, Tang whispered the sentence that would haunt investigators for years. They're already inside the building. Screen of the USB drive, just plugged into the evidence computer, began to load. A single file appeared. A video. Time-stamped the night Menglong died. The truth wasn't just horrifying. It was waiting to be played.